Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shannon Dill. I'm with University of Maryland Extension, and we're happy to be back another year of Wednesday webinars. Today, we'll be talking about creating a farm business continuity plan, and you can see the upcoming webinars for both the rest of January and into February. We do have the full year's webinars listed here in this yellow link, extension.umd.edu/women in ag. You can go there to see what we have planned coming up, as well as archived webinars from the last 4 years. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsors and our collaborators with the Mid-Atlantic Women in Agriculture program. So a big thank you to them. Any questions that you have, please feel free to add into the chat pod. We'll be monitoring the chat as we go along. And if keep yourselves on mute, and we'll be using the chat pod for questions. The recording and the slides will be sent to participants following today's webinar. So with that, I'm going to get started. As I mentioned, I'm Shannon Dill. I'm with University of Maryland Extension. I'm based in Talbot County, and I'm the extension educator there. And we started looking into farm business continuity plans when the pandemic started. It was something that we thought, we really haven't talked a lot about this and what happens on the farm if there's just these disruptions in place. So, business continuity really refers to maintaining business functions or quickly resuming them in, in the event of a major disruption. It assists with the loss of income, maybe protects the employees, protects the owners, and puts a practice in place to care for crops and animals. And as we know and we've seen, agriculture is definitely an essential business. It is carried on through shutdowns, through changes in what the regulations are for business operations. Agriculture has maintained steady. So, what happens if there is some type of disruption? Who's taking care of the crops? How are they managed? How are the animals taken care of? So the major sections we're going to address today is sort of the prevention strategies. What are actions to prevent before the disaster occurs? And while I'm kind of referencing the pandemic, this could be a weather disaster. It could be fires. It could be health issues. So while I may be putting this in sort of the COVID-19 aspect, there's definitely other considerations when you're thinking about business continuity. So, prevention strategies is the first. The next is response strategy. So, detailed response for potential disasters for different parts of the business. So, you have a disaster happen. How is the business going to respond? And we know in farm businesses, you don't have a large amount of employees. Generally, it's family members. So, I think that that's a really important thing is to have that communication and that division of duties. And then what is the recovery strategy? So after the event, how to get the business back on track. So prevention, response, recovery. So this is going to involve four general steps. First, we're going to identify the scope of the plan. Next, we'll talk about the risk and prevention strategies. Third is the response. And the fourth is taking time to share, look at implementation, any training that needs to be done, testing, and review. So the first part is the scope of the plan, and this is sort of could start out as a summary. What is the plan and the goals of the document? Examples could be from maybe a production perspective. It could be from employee management or families. Maybe it's the financial or technology perspective. All right. So what are we looking at? What does the scope of this plan look like? Consider all areas and activities of the farm, from daily tasks to regular maintenance to things that are done maybe on a weekly or monthly basis. Maybe it's accessing certain websites or updating things or doing the reports. So just having sort of that thought in place that you really want to think about all areas of the operating the farm. So the next is risk and prevention strategies. So what are ways that the farm mitigates risk? And this could include your risk management strategies. Is it irrigation? Is it um, crop insurance? Are there things, or is there certain security measures that are taking place? Are there biosecurity activities? Here on the Eastern Shore, we talk a lot about biosecurity with the poultry industry, and the hog industry has a large biosecurity issue. So, what are those type of things? Security and fire protection. Maybe it's secondary suppliers. So you buy everything from one distributor. Are there others in the area or region you could source products or inputs from? Technology backup, we've talked a lot about sort of the farm side. What about the electronic side? Is there data that needs to be secured? Is there ways that it's being backed up? And is the backups put in a secure place, securely in the cloud? Are you backing up to a hard drive and putting that on a different, at a different location in case there was a fire or a flood? Is there communication? Is there people that you need to be in touch with if something was to happen? Is there ability to cross train employees or family members so they at least know how to do some of these things? And is there ways to split maybe some critical functions, having those backups? So consider farm compliance and regulatory requirements. Think about those type of things, essential employees and how they would operate and report, the agility of employees and resources needed during the disruption. We like to sort of go through the what ifs. And when you work in like emergency management and planning, you go through the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And you think about all of those trickle down things that need to be considered. Employee safety, considering, farm vehicles, equipment, materials, travel with government mandated travel restrictions, which we had, protocol for safe evacuation or quarantine of employees who are traveling. So having those policies in place and implementing them. So the response strategy, continuing with that response strategy and continuity plan, this is really the largest section and includes really the process side of it, and the plan for disasters. So you might want to consider breaking it down by roles, maybe by managers, maybe by the farm enterprises, maybe it's by activity. So it's very specific farm to farm. I don't think there's any one that would work for one type of commodity or one type of farm structure. A checklist that includes supplies and equipment, maybe the location of data and backup sites, passwords, and contact information for emergency responders, maybe key personnel and your backup site providers. So, how to get into certain data that might be needed. Additionally, an inventory of essential farm activities to ensure the safety and health of the crops and animals. And again, we saw that in March during planting season and through the summer, farming does not stop. And so there are things that may need to be done or cared for um, if there's some type of a disruption. So this could include, necessary operations like scouting, feeding, health maintenance, irrigation, any of those type of things. Here's some maybe farm specific things that could be related to the farm. General farm ID, the fields, the acres under control of the farm, maybe included rented property, how many acres is it? Where is it located? Who are the contacts? If you're leasing it, who are the contacts for that? So just a really good inventory of that. Potentially key markets for farm products. So if you're selling it 3 or 4 different markets, is there contact information? Is there follow-up information? Next of kin or trusted people to be in charge, who to contact. If you've got employees, we like to have, emergency contacts for employees and who else to get in touch with if there was something that happened. For a continuity of business for crop-based agriculture, there may be some crop rotation information. A lot in here in Maryland, a lot of that would be located somewhere like in our nutrient management plan. So there's some data in there. Perhaps there's an IPM program, including where the pesticide records are kept, licensing, storage, weed control. Maybe it's part of the food safety plan, and all the records that are kept for food safety. Key workers for seasonal work and harvest, and all of that employee data. equipment location for both owned and leased equipment, and plan for leased or custom help to the farm. You know, is there a way to get some help or assistance if it's needed? The animal-based continuity of business that looks at, your grazing rotation plan. Maybe there's some barn layouts and function. Maybe it's an animal inventory and age, just keeping, where are those records kept? Maybe there's major services by, the different animal enterprises that are there. Breeding records. Maybe it's health records if you're transporting or going to sales. Feeding nutrition, feeding plan by age group or life stages, and a biosecurity or visitor plan, and then the key workers, including part-time who work off the farm. So, there's some of those considerations, and especially with animals needing to be cared for on a daily basis, and checked in on, how can that be managed? So, last part of the response strategy include a list of internal and external stakeholders for conveying communication. Is this done by email? A lot of our email lists are private. Is there a spreadsheet where you can keep contacts on the spreadsheet so someone else could have access to it? Customers, consumers, and the media, if there's anything that needs to be done along those lines. Review supplier service level agreements and what type of contracts are in place, and any other legal expectations you may have. Maybe it's um, a crop rental lease agreement or a crop share agreement, anything like that. And then getting back to normal, are there some activities that may need to take place to get the business back on track following a disruption in business? Share, implement, train, test, and review. I know things are busy on the farm. I know that this is, oftentimes it's a very small group of family members. Maybe it's a very a handful of employees or seasonal workers. But, having something that's at least, it may not be in a formal, glossy plan, but just somewhere where things are printed off. And, even at home, we have some of those things for in case something happens to, our family, where are the passwords, where things are, what needs to be done, who should be contacted. Same within our office situation. We kind of use that. What if I'm hit by the bus? Who needs to know what? And I think that's a very important conversation to have within your management team and then with your employees. So communicate this business decisions, partners, employees, any other appropriate audiences. Consider training and needed maybe responsibilities during a disruption. Does somebody need to know how to open something or access something or do something that they would may need to do? Test the business continuity plan. It could be done through getting some feedback, others looking at it, going through sort of that what if process. What if there's a fire? What if there's a flood? Who knew there would be a pandemic? What if there's a health scare in the family? A very sudden injury that happens. So, if there's ways to do that, and be sure to review the plan as the business environment and world changes. So, bring it back out on an annual basis. The end of the year, the beginning of the new year is a great time to sort of reflect and go through your records. You're already looking at financial records for the tax season. You're doing other reporting for your crop and livestock. So maybe it's time to review that plan, and you could update it, have it printed, have it located somewhere. And with that, thank you very much. I learned a lot doing research on the web with business continuity and farm business continuity. Some plans were definitely more in depth than others, but I think that there are some great resources. Penn State had some wonderful resources on their website for the business continuity. Here's my information. I don't have my email on there. It's 41 or sdill@umd.edu. If you'd like to send me an email, and I will be sending, as I said, a copy of the slides as well as this recording. So thank you very much, and I'll entertain any questions.